just like there's a lot of useless quests in Ghost Simulator, there's also a lot of other useless things in the game, and today we're going to take a broader look at useless stuff and just look at the most 5 useless items in general in Ghost Simulator. Now, when I'm talking about useless items in Ghost Simulator, I'm talking about like features in the game constantly, not like old items that from different events that just don't have a use anymore. Rather stuff like that's always available in game but haven't really had a use for most players. Now, starting off with number 5, we have one of the big talking points that I had for useless features in Ghost Simulator for a while, but it's recently been moved down on the priority list for being useless, and that would be, of course, the incinerator in the junkyard of the main hub. And this thing, although it is technically useless since all the items that you put in don't really get anything out of from them, since the items can also be used to go craft gum, there isn't really too much of a problem with having it useless. Although in my opinion it would be better if it was balanced to give some amount of gems to be somewhat comparable to a gum converter. It's still fine in the useless state that it is. Now, the 4th most useless thing in Ghost Simulator is kind of a weird one, and it's just going to be the pet crates in general, since basically all the pet crates that you have access to throughout the game are always going to be worse than anything that you can get for actually easier. Starting off in the game, you have access to the first 3 pet crates, which even if you get the best classified from the best crate possible at this point, it's not even better than the pet stats that you can get from just entering a code in the game. And as you continue to progress through the game, getting those classifieds gets really hard as the gem costs go up quite a bit, and it just becomes really hard to get anything useful, since even the godlies, which are really difficult for people to still get, aren't even worth the stats for new players, since they aren't better than most of the code pets that people have at this point in the game. Even when you start looking at stuff like the void crate. Now, the next thing on this list is going to be the infinite quest lines. Now, I know I already covered these on my most useless quests video, but these quests really are still managed to make the top of the list on when you consider all Ghost Simulator features, and mostly this is due to how useful they could be if with just some minor tweaks to how they work, and really the fact that they detract if players ever try to do them rather than working on the rest of their progression, and it makes sense for me to place them on number 3 on most useless features in Ghost Simulator. Now, the second most useless thing in this game is going to be the recent boosted gums from the shop. And what makes these things most useless is the fact that they really get overshadowed by their shorter, free to get things that you can get from all the gum converters throughout the game, when grinding gum's actually quite easy, even if you're free to play due to the recent changes in backdoor. But what especially makes it even more useless is the fact that these items have been given for free to players through the update event, which basically makes it worthless for anyone to ever actually buy them. And I seriously think these gums need some serious buffs before people would even ever consider using. In my opinion, these gums should be a niche for heavy grinders, since it's very rare for anyone other than the heavy grinders to be spending an hour just solid doing the same thing. And since boosted lucky gum is worse than the best lucky gum, and lucky gum's not too difficult to get, there's no real reason to buy that one, which is super expensive. And rather than having a 2 times, I think it just needs to be a 3 times to make it a little bit better. Than same thing basically goes for boosted event drops. It should be at least on par with glitchy boss gum, since glitchy boss gum isn't too difficult to get, and lasting for an hour is more of a downside than an upside, since you're wasting a lot more of the gum time. With Photon Blaster Gum, I really loved the idea when it first came out and I saw it, but unfortunately it just doesn't seem like enough, since when you think about the math, basically does the same thing as boss gum in a way, since it speeds up bosses. You basically get more bosses for less time, so making it do maybe more damage along with also the faster fire rate could also be useful. But those are just some ideas for making these gums actually worthwhile in the current game meta. And now for the most useless thing in Ghost Simulator, it's going to be the gem drops and gem chest from Ghosts in Ghost Simulator. And this is pretty obvious to most players who've played the game for a while, since these gem drops quickly get overshadowed by converting or other sources of gems like loot bags very quickly, even for the most new players in the game, which is really who it should be made the most for. And because of this, I feel like this is the most useless thing, just since it is so common and fundamental in the game that something that big can be made super useless just because of how good pet stats have become in other ways of obtaining gems. And with that, that is going to be my opinion on the 5 most useless features in Ghost Simulator. If you have any other suggestions on how things in this list would get moved around, or anything else feature-wise in Ghost Simulator that you think would deserve to be on this list, feel free to send me a comment. One of the big things I know I'm missing is going to be those stuff that are currently broken or have bugs, and I'm planning on making another video in the nearest future which is going over the broken stuff like that, since I didn't feel like it'd be fair to put in broken bugs in a list of just useless stuff. And I think with that, will be the end of this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this and are having fun in Ghost Simulator, and I will see you guys in my next video.